My goal in this video is to show you the process for syncing a stake calendar of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and syncing it to your smartphone. And the example I'm going to give here is by syncing it through your Google account to your smartphone. But there are other ways to do it too. So I'm here on churchofjesuschrist.org, and I'm just going to click on my account and ward, and I get a pop-up, and here in my ward it says calendar. So I'll just click there. And the current month pops up with all these different events, but I would like to sync at least some of these events to my smartphone. I could just come here to my church account anytime I want to check what's on the calendar, but sometimes it's handy to also have that on a smartphone. So what I need to do is to go here to this gear symbol. This is the settings button, but it looks like a gear. And you just click there and then click sync. This takes you to the calendar sync screen, and you'll notice it says events in your church calendar can be synced with your Google Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, or Apple Calendar. Updates made to events in your church calendar will be reflected in the synced calendar. However, events created or modified in Google, Microsoft Outlook, or Apple calendars will not be reflected in your church calendar. So what this is saying is it's a one-way sync. If you do this, and if you do it right, the stake calendar and other calendar events will be synced to your device, and you'll be able to access those events either through your Apple Calendar, Microsoft Outlook Calendar, or Google Calendar. And it should stay synced, but if you make changes in your Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, or Apple Calendar, or if you add events, you won't be able to add them to the stake calendar. No one else is going to see those, right? So it's a one-way sync from the church website calendar to these calendars that you can access on your smartphone. It's only one way. So let's look at how to do that. If you look here at this screen, you have a list of auto-synced calendars from your list, and there's a synced calendar URL. So this is just an automatically generated link that you can use to sync all of these calendars to your device by using one of these calendar apps that I've mentioned a couple times. But what if you want to customize what you see? Maybe you don't want to see every single type of calendar event. So this is what you could do. Create a group of synced calendars. Give it a name, and maybe I'll just call this Stake and Churchwide Events Calendar. Next, I browse down the page, and let's say I do want church-wide events. I could turn that on, and down here it says Stake Calendar. In our stake, this is all of the official stake events, and also other important events that the entire stake should know about. If I wanted to, I could also add the building calendars to know if maybe the Granger building is already scheduled on a certain night, so I can't request to use the building that night. If I wanted to, I could turn on all of these building calendars to know when those buildings are reserved. In my case, I don't think I want those. All I really want is my stake calendar and the church-wide events. If I really wanted to, I could browse down the page and add some of the ward calendars as well. But I'm happy with these two, and I'll just click Save. And now you'll see I still have the auto-synced calendars, but that's not the one I really want in my case. And now I have this custom calendar that I've just set up to be synced. It's a combination of stake events and church-wide events, and it provides me a way to get a link to this synced calendar, the URL for this synced calendar. So I can just click there. Notice what it says here. This URL is provided for your own personal use. It should not be shared with anyone else. Okay, this is just for me. So I click Copy URL. It copies it to the clipboard, which is just your computer memory, basically. And then you'll notice there are instructions for how to add this synced calendar URL to either Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, or Microsoft Calendar. The example I'm giving in this video is just the Google Calendar, so let's click to see what it says. Now this information here is not from the church, it's from Google, and they're explaining how to add someone else's calendar. And notice that there's a couple of ways to add someone else's calendar. One is using an email address. We don't have that option in this case. The other is to add using a link. And if you recall, we got a link here. So that is probably the best option. So I could click Add using a link, and it just says on your computer, open Google Calendar, and you can just click that button, and it takes you to the sign-in for Google Calendar. So these step-by-step directions really are helpful to help you set up your calendar sync properly. Once you've signed in, you can go back to that list of instructions, and it tells you what to do next. On the left, next to Other Calendars, click the Add button from URL. So here at the left, there's an Add button next to Other Calendars. You can click there from URL, and I'm just going to paste in this link that I copied earlier. It should still be in the computer memory on the clipboard, and I'll just paste it in. I don't need this calendar to be publicly accessible. I don't think that's a good idea in this case. So I'll just click Add Calendar. It says the calendar was added. So now, if I go to my Google Calendar, I'll just go directly to calendar.google.com. So here I am in my Google Calendar at calendar.google.com. If I refresh it, you'll notice stake events now are appearing in my calendar. And as I advance to next week, the week after, you can see all of those stake events are coming in, and also church-wide events. I can click on those events to get more information. And now, if I use the Google Calendar app on my smartphone, those events should show up there as well. Just make sure when you're accessing the Google Calendar from your smartphone that you have all of these other calendars enabled. It is possible to turn them off, and of course that would hide the stake and church-wide events if you don't have the calendar set to be visible. So let's look now on an iPhone, and let's access the Google Calendar app. So I tap on Google Calendar. It opens up the Google Calendar, and I know there are events on this day, but they're not showing up. It says nothing planned. What we need to do is go to the upper left corner and tap on those three horizontal lines. And that opens up a list of the calendars that I am showing on my device. Notice that it says Show More here. If you tap there on Show More, there is the churchofjesuschrist.org calendar that I can tap to enable. Just tap that box to put a check mark in it, and now it's enabled. And look, now the events in the stake calendar show up on my own Google Calendar on my iPhone. So hopefully that helps you get set up using the stake calendar on your smartphones.